We're asking, Lord, that you will help us, that our hearts will not shift from that which you are calling us into. We're trusting you, Lord, that at the end of the day, we will not have wasted our time and our years here on earth pursuing that which has no relevance. Move our hearts to respond accordingly and appropriately to your word. Enable us, Lord, to live according to your expectation. Equip us with what we need to serve you in these last days. Thank you, Lord, for the help of your Spirit that abides with us to reveal Jesus, to bring to our remembrance the things that we were taught, and to bring illumination to our hearts, to flood our hearts with light, to make your word have the needed impact and effect. We are grateful. We know you will help us in this meeting. Thank you for hearing us. In Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen. All right, we're looking at essentials of a disciple maker relationship, and we have emphasized that walking with Jesus is a relationship. That's what we try to establish. It's a relationship between individuals. You know, when you are in a group meeting, sometimes your mindset is completely different from when you are in a relationship and you know that this relationship is between myself and this brother. It's different from I belong to the church, where in that group, that is our family. It's different because there is some level of precision, level of intimacy that is demanded in a relationship that two people are conscious of. That's why the other study we had, we looked at the attributes of a family and we talked about mutual acceptance. If you don't accept Jesus as your master, you will not benefit from him as a disciple. That mutual acceptance must be there. So you don't, the emphasis is that in a discipleship relationship with the Lord Jesus, you don't assume that you are a disciple. You don't assume. So when we began looking at essentials of this relationship, what are those valuable issues regarding this relationship as we walk with the Lord? You know, I believe that spiritual things must not be done haphazardly. That spiritual does not mean things should be done without decency and order. Please, bro, please arrange this one. Let me use this. So spiritual things does not mean it should just be done haphazardly without a pattern. I believe that spiritual things can be learned and can be taught. So we began by saying that in that relationship, there must be a steadfast heart. A heart that is fixed. A heart that is not distracted. A heart that is not carried away by what others are doing around. You must be committed in that relationship with a steadfast heart, a heart that is fixed and resolute, not easily distracted even by the things that would look as privileges to you. For example, Jesus had a relationship with the Father. And when he came on the earth, the people came to make him king. But Jesus rejected it. Jesus rejected it because his heart was steadfast on the relationship he had with his Father. There's something that, he was looking for. And we noted other examples like Elisha, who had a steadfast heart. Now we looked at genuine love for God. That's the first, which also will imply love for the disciple and the disciple maker. First is love for God. If you don't love God, you can't raise anybody correctly. You will abuse the relationship. It is love for God that will help you. And we noted that Jesus asked Peter, do you love me more than these engagements, these transactions? Do you love me more than these endeavors? And if you do, all you should do for me is what? Feed these lambs for me. Raise them for me. Nurture them for me. Now, if you don't genuinely love, please listen. If you don't genuinely love the sheep, and that is what is very prevalent in today's church. Please listen. Listen, don't be distracted. If you don't genuinely love the sheep, you will not feed the sheep, you will feed on the sheep. Two things that look alike, but they are very different. If you don't love the sheep, you will feed on the sheep. If you love the sheep, you will feed the sheep. That's if you love Jesus, rather. If you love Jesus, you will feed the sheep. If you don't love him, you will feed on the sheep. And feeding on the sheep is very prevalent today. And it didn't even start today. Right from the days of the prophets and our fathers. It's written in the book of Ezekiel, even in the book of Jeremiah. It was very common. In fact, that was one of the reasons Israel went into captivity. Their priests and their Levites began to feed on the people instead of feeding the people. The priests in those days began to see the priesthood as business, even in the days of Nehemiah and Malachi. Malachi prophesied in the days shortly after the period of Nehemiah. That's why God was offended with the priests. Remember also the sons of Eli. They didn't care about anybody, neither did they even care about God. They had prepared very long forks that while people brought offering and while it was being prepared, they used the long forks, the best part of it for themselves, not even keeping for God, for themselves. Why? They didn't love God. When you love God, you will raise men for God. When you love God, the well-being of the people will be paramount. When you love God, you will want to see people overcome addictions and weaknesses and become like Jesus. But it's possible that you have somebody with you who has strong addictions, living in, but you are benefiting from his energy. He's very energetic, very hardworking. So, well, you are just comfortable that the brother can work hard. The sister is working very hard. And you ignore her personal struggles and challenges. It is because the love of God is not strong. Neither do you love the disciple. And then the disciple too should love his master. That's when service will be voluntary. Elisha loved Elijah and willingly carried water for him to wash his hands. Not that Elijah imposed it on him. That's what love does. And the best thing that can happen to a believer is to have the love of God. Because you will do things without murmuring, without grumbling. It will come from your heart. And anything you do through love, it gets rewarded. You see love when you do things out of love. Even you yourself, you get fulfilled. You get fulfilled. If you receive a gift out of love, you get, excited more than imposing levies. You can even impose levies and have more goods, but your heart will not be at rest. But even a little gift out of genuine love gets you excited. That's why love is the fulfillment of the law. According to the Bible, is the fulfillment of the law. So a disciple can serve his master, not because the master is imposing it on him or her, but because he or she loves the master. Look at that little girl living with Naaman and their mistress. She was not consulted. Who would have consulted that girl over leprosy? The girl is a slave girl. She has not gone to school. Neither did she study medicine. She knows nothing about leprosy as per having cure or solution medically. Who would have consulted her considering her age? A little girl taken as a captive. But out of genuine love for her master and mistress, she went to the mistress and said, only if Daddy would like to go to our village. There is a prophet there. Out of love. Out of love. So that's the beautiful thing about this relationship. When there is genuine love between master and servant, teacher and student, disciple maker, master and apprentice, when once there is genuine love, the relationship thrives with minimal struggles. Same with children, even biological children. When there is genuine love in the heart of the children for their parents, relationship thrives. Same too with parents having love for their children. Genuine love for their welfare, for their well-being. Because this love is beyond material things, giving material things. If you really love your child, you will give him or her what is eternal. That's the first sign of genuine love. If all you've been giving your children are materials and perishables, you have not yet loved them. Genuine love will impart that which is eternal. Please, are you hearing me? I noted that in Hebrews 11, the things that really matter, one is our personal walk with God. 2, offspring. And 3, our works. That's a summary of the things we saw in Hebrews 11. Personal walk with God first. 2, your offspring. What you leave behind in the form of men that you affected. We could not have had Jacob, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph in that list in Hebrews 11 if they did not have an Abraham who left behind godly seed and godly offspring. Genuine love. I'm emphasizing these things because they are very important. And the next we talked about concerted praying. This is also a very crucial issue. Do you know why it is important? Because even when a disciple has accepted the master and the master has accepted the disciple, it does not automatically mean that relationship would work. Because we have an adversary who moves about like a roaring lion, seeking whom and what to destroy. He can destroy the relationship. And there are typical examples in the Bible. Number 1 is Demas. Remember that Demas began as a wonderful disciple. 2 Timothy 4 verse 10. Please quickly turn to that scripture and read for us if you are there. New King James Version. Where is the microphone? And New King James Version. 2 Timothy 4:10. Second Timothy 4:10. Who is there to read for us?
For Demas has forsaken me.
Demas has done what?
For has forsaken me.
Okay.
Having loved this present world, and has departed for Thessalonica.
Okay.
Crescens for Galatia. Titus for Dalmatia.
All right. Demas has forsaken me. But that's not how Demas began. Demas was a disciple who followed and was mentioned as one of the disciples. Colossians chapter 4, verse 14. Colossians 4:14. Colossians 4:14.
Luke, the beloved physician, and Demas greet you.
Okay? So, while he wrote to the Colossians, Demas was a good disciple, wonderful disciple, who accepted Paul as his master and was following and persevered with the master, even while in prison. And he could make mention of Demas as a beloved disciple too. Not only Luke was beloved. I believe the beloved takes care of both of them, the physician and Demas. But in 2 Timothy, he has forsaken me. I'm stressing why we need to pray. Because the way the enemy works, a disciple can just wake up one day and abandon the relationship for no just cause. For no just cause. Just like you have people that you want to help and you've done everything for them. But before you know it, they just abandon everything and off they go. And you'll be wondering what's the attraction. Perhaps those you thought you could bring them from the village and give them a future. Before you know it, they prefer the village. What do you think happens? The enemy doesn't want them to prosper. That's why we need to pray for disciples. Disciples too need to pray for their masters.
It's coming.
Philippians chapter 4 verse 2. Another scenario. Philippians 4 verse 2. Read that from the NLT or any other simpler version. Philippians 4:2.
And beseech Syntage that they be of the same mind in the Lord.
That's King James version. Okay. Take a simpler one like NLT. That they be of the same mind. You may not understand what that means. That they be of the same mind. NLT.
Says, and now I want to plead with those two women, Euodia and Syntyche. Please, because you belong to the Lord, settle your disagreement.
Read 3.
And I ask you, my true teammate, to help these women, for they worked hard with me in telling others the good news, and they worked with Clement and the rest of my co-workers, whose names are written in the book of life.
All right. Two women, Euodia and Syntyche, followers of Paul of Tarsus, members of the church at Philippi, co-laborers. At this point, they are not just like young converts. They have become fellow laborers, co-laborers with Paul. But for whatever reason, the enemy stirred up a quarrel and disagreement and strife between two of them, the two disciples, the two followers. And that also can frustrate all their labors. All their labors. So this prayer is necessary because you don't know the method the enemy would come with to frustrate your labors. Because if these women don't make it at the end of the day, all the labors of Paul over their lives wasted. They just speak, they quarrel among themselves. And Paul is even appealing to them, please settle your quarrel. And also to the brethren like Clement, and say, please help those women. What's their problem? Please help settle it. These things happen. The disciples disagree. You know, it happened with Jesus too. Just as Jesus was smart and we had wisdom to quell it on time. No, there was a time that 10 disciples ganged up against 2. Because the 2 came with their mother. Maybe others didn't have mothers. To be their advocates. So 2 came with their mother, advocating for the choicest seats in eternity. Minister for Finance and what? Which are the choicest? Niger Delta. Okay, works. He said in eternity, let's sit on your left and on your right. And the other 10, that brought a dissension. They quarreled. They argued. Why should you people do that? Is it because we don't have people? We don't have people to come and advocate for us. But Jesus silenced them. How? By teaching them and say, look, in the kingdom, you don't look for authority like the Gentiles. Just teaching sorted that matter. He said, the things the Gentiles run after, you must not seek it. They seek authority and abuse of power. But in this kingdom, those who rule are servants. Oh, hallelujah. Those who rule here are what? They are servants. And he taught them with his life. When they all sat down and he removed his garments and put a towel around his body and bent down one by one to wash their feet. Teaching them humility. I said, this I am doing to you, do it to one another. Prayers are very important. Remember, one brother in the Bible that missed out of his lot. I sense he would have been a very significant follower of the Lord. But he missed out of his lot. His name is Lot. Remember Lot? Relative of Abraham. The Lord only asked Abraham to leave. But when he carried Lot, God didn't object to it. Just like the Lord would tell Moses, come up to the mount. And he goes with Joshua and God didn't object. So I'm seeing lots who have benefited from such privilege. But the enemy deceived him to run after cattle than preserve a relationship. That's why we're saying you must know how to value relationship. The discipleship relationship is far more valuable than goods. More valuable than goods. But Lot left his uncle just because his goods began to multiply, cattle. And it didn't occur to him that all along my cattle never prospered. I never prospered, it never multiplied. Something must have told him that it should be my connection with this man that made for this increase. Just like Potiphar noticed and said, look, Joseph, since you came to my house, I have prospered. And Potiphar didn't joke with that relationship if not for his wife, who accused Joseph wrongly. Concerted praying is very important. Please spend time to pray for your disciples, your followers, because the enemy can sift. Don't be casual. It's a spiritual warfare. Raising men for God is a spiritual battle. That's why we read the other day when Pharaoh said, he said, don't let these people multiply so that in an event of war, they will not defeat us. So Satan is very proactive. He looks at the future. He's a strategic thinker. He looks at the future. If war breaks out and they multiply now, they will defeat us. So let's stop that multiplication. And that's what he's still doing today. He doesn't stop churches from multiplying in number, but he stops disciples from multiplying. That's why in the early church, what multiplied wasn't members, but what? Disciples. Acts chapter 6, what happened? The Bible said when the number of disciples did what? Multiplied. Not number of church members. Please, let's take note. We can gather people, but how many are truly following Jesus? How many are disciples indeed? How many tremble at his word? How many seek his divine counsel? How many are pursuing his divine person and his wisdom? Concerted praying. How did Peter survive? Jesus prayed for him. Someone else can survive if you pray for him or her. Satan has desired to sift you like wheat, but I have prayed for you. Please let me tell you that in the way God has a prophetic agenda over your life, Satan also has a conspiracy over your life. Please never you ignore that. Whether you believe or not, that's the truth. The same way God has a prophetic plan and agenda over you, Satan has a conspiracy. While Samson was really busy moving up and down, pulling down pillars, he didn't know there was a conspiracy by the lords of the Philistines. How do we trap this young man and destroy him? We need to siphon this power, else we are finished. And they engaged a young girl, paid her money she didn't need all her life. So much money. Please trap that young man for us. See, listen, Satan can spend anything to get us. I mean anything. Just to get at us. Paid a little girl. Say, please find out the source of his strength. Please, let's not be careless. Let's be praying. Disciples too, pray for their masters, pray for your disciples, pray for your parents. If they take away, it will affect you. If they are misled, misguided, it will affect you. If the enemy also influences them to take wrong decisions over your life, it will affect you. Pray for them to be well guided by the Lord, to be led by the Spirit of God, not to be led by self. Concerted praying. Acknowledge the weakness of every disciple. We did say that. Take a few that you can handle. Don't go for a multitude as though you want to make show. There's nothing to be proud about. Say, yes, I have 50 disciples, and yet none has conformed. Take a few per time. Brood over them, because discipling people is time consuming. It's energy sapping. So, you need to take a number you can. We're looking at the practical issues now. We can't just be talking about discipleship. And I'm trusting God, this month, the end of this month, by the time tidying of this study this month, that will make us 1 year, 6 months on this study. So if you have not been helped to even practically attempt, for your own help, and 2, for you to help us, then 1 year and a half would have been wasted. Why not just teaching so that you take notes? It's a practical issue. That's why I say we can receive instructions here, but it's not in this all that we do it. It's work. It's professional discipleship too. And you can have disciples are professionals. You are an engineer, you are a young engineer. It's not just coming to learn how to do your work. Life hurts. You have a lawyer coming to your members. It's a young lawyer who has just left school. Discipleship as personal discipleship. Don't just give him the skill of winning cases in court. Give him the life. Medical doctor, you have young ones coming on the type of group. As a consultant, you have the ones who have your house or something. Oh, those are guys disposed. Show them the life first. The next point we're going to treat will, portray that point. All right, so the next point is give attention to details in that relationship. Give attention to details. Remember the scripture we read, Ecclesiastes 10:1-2 and Psalm 2:15. Those were a pious study. Ecclesiastes 10:1 says that dead flies make what? The ointment of the apothecary. To do what? To bring forth a stinking odor. Dead flies are usually tiny, negligible, and they are insignificant. But they can bring out a stinking odor from what should have had wonderful scent or fragrance. It means that dead flies can contaminate the ointment made by the apothecary, perfume maker. We are perfume makers. We are making lives to be and praying unto the Lord that the Lord will accept us. We are the perfume makers. Ecclesiastes chapter 10, verse 1 and 2. The apothecary is the perfume maker. The time makers are the apothecary, the perfume makers. When God brings a life to you, you are going to turn that life to become a perfume unto the Lord, acceptable to the Lord. But if you are not careful, dead flies, little things that you ignore, little things you ignore will make that life acceptable and offering acceptable to the Lord. Smelling sample becomes what? Brings forth stinking odor. Why? You were not meticulous. So this point is very critical. Be meticulous with those that the Lord brings to you. Beginning with your children. Be meticulous. Watch the little foxes that spoil the vine. Watch the little foxes that spoil the vine. Jesus walked with his disciples. He did not ignore any of their activities that were inconsistent with the objective. Objective of becoming like him. They saw a people and said, Lord, the way they didn't receive you, we didn't like it. They should have given you more respect. So let's call down fire. Jesus spoke to them on the spot, countering that initiative. Because they were still nurturing a vengeful spirit in following him. They still had an upset temperament. These things show you will know a child who will grow up to be violent. You will know a child who will be very unforgiving. You will know a child who will be very disobedient. You will know a child who will be selfish when he grows up. You will know a child that will have very weak convictions about what is right. You will know a child who loves outside more than his house at that age. Don't ignore those things. As a child, when he grows up, he will change. Please listen to me. Age changes nobody when it comes to character, spiritual defects. Age does not change spiritual defects. Spiritual defects need spiritual solution. Age lacks capacity to deal with sin. Age does not deal with sin. What deals with sin is the cross of Christ, not age. If age can deal with sin, then Abraham at about 86 or so shouldn't have consented to sleep with Hagar. And he was old enough to know that, no, I shouldn't do this. Give attention to details. Know that God can use anything and everything as a means of instruction to the people around you. So be careful in the things you do and say, and the relationship that you keep around you, at home, at work, wherever you are. Give attention to details. Many children who grow up to have problems in their marriages, many of them, the reason is because either as they grew up with their parents or who their disciples were, didn't also raise them well in the area of managing certain things regarding marriage. Because the things you see affect you more than the things you hear. They stick to your spirit more than what you hear. The things we did on Sunday, if I ask us now, very few will remember. Very few. But if I came to church wrongly dressed, you will remember. Is it not? What you see catches your attention more than what you hear. That's why you must be careful with what you do. It sticks more than what you say. So when children stay in a home, whether as biological children or as disciples, the things they see matter a lot. Give attention to details. Don't overlook inconsistencies in children. They will grow with it. And when they grow with it, as teenagers and young adults, it's very difficult to correct. Very difficult. Please don't omit anything. Don't omit anything, because discipleship is holistic. It trains you in everything. So, like the issue of the home I was talking about, we have homes today, even the homes of believers, that financial oneness is a Herculean task. Very difficult to find Christian homes that don't have problem in finances. Difficult for you to find openness when it comes to finances. Very difficult. Why? It's traceable to how they were raised. It's traceable to how they were raised. So the little things you do at home with your children matter a lot. Let me give you one example. If as parents you give your child money, maybe send money to your child in school, it could come from any of the parents. It could come from the father. It could come from the mother. Listen. We preferred to train our children to greet both parents. It doesn't matter the account it comes from. Not because the other person is looking for greeting, but we are creating an impression in their spirit of financial oneness, that there is no transaction that your father does that your mother does not know. And there is no transaction that your mother does and your father does not know. We have seen the negative in some homes. There is a particular family, the young boy is with my son in school, so we know the family because sometimes they travel together. The father usually sends the money to the boy. So this time around, there was a time the father didn't send money to, or the boy didn't request for money. Unknown to him that the wife had sent money to him and didn't tell him. And some people in school started noticing the boy wanting to live big and eat big. So when the father now thought aloud, that's when the wife said that, oh, she sent some money to him. And the husband said, you should have let me know. And the boy did not tell the father. You see the issue now. If he had greeted the father, oh, daddy, thank you, mommy sent me money, that would have sorted that matter. But he also didn't, because he also exploited their lack of oneness in financial transactions to collect from the mother and start living big. Unknown to the father, he has collected money. These little things are not little. That's why we're talking about details. Remember, we're talking about little foxes, dead flies. Train your children to know that daddy and mommy are one in everything, particularly in finances. Else they will exploit you to their own advantage. When once you get married, nobody owns money as personal property in the marriage. Let your children know that. Let your disciples know that. Even disciples who come to live with you, train them like that. A disciple came to your house, and maybe you as the man, as he was going, thousands they take for your transport. Train that disciple to greet your wife. It's not your wife is looking for greeting. It is because you are raising a life. Let that life, because when he eventually gets to his family or she gets to her family, you don't know that the things you did stuck to their spirit more than the Bible story you had in the house. So he will know that these two are financially one. No transaction that is done in secrecy. You are doing that because you're raising a life. We're talking about giving attention to details. If you don't do that, and that sister left your house and went and married and is having problem financially, you will share in the blame if you were not conscious to make that known to her. Because this is what the Lord wants us to do. He's teaching us from his word. Selfishness must be dealt. Remember that the primary objective in following Jesus is to become like him. But the means to becoming like him is to do what? To deal with self-life. And it is self-life that is possessive. When once you say my money, listen to me, whether you believe it or not, self is ruling you. And only two things can rule you in this life. It's either the Spirit of God or the self from the devil. There's no middle ground. Only two things rule people in this life. So when once you begin to be possessive, begin to be secretive, do transactions in secret. Your wife does not know. Your husband does not know. Self is at work. The cross is yet to work sufficiently on your life. This is one of the things that discipleship deals with. Self can be very stubborn. Sometimes it could be spending money over what is not important. And this is very common with young people. Very common with young people. I'm privileged to relate with young people, and I know some of them who make money, but you don't see on their lives. You don't see on their lives. They look tattered and rejected, yet money is passing through their hands. Because they don't have, either they don't have someone to teach them how to manage resources, or they know but don't want to apply. They've been taught but they don't want to apply. But many is that they have not learned. And you know what that results in? Listen. There are essentials in life that every young person can afford. At least many young people, let me not say every. Many young people should be able to afford some essentials. But they don't. Not because they don't have, but they lack the discipline in managing resources. For example, because discipleship also has to do with your personal hygiene. This is another area of detail, another area that you must not overlook. Now, why do you see that some young people have challenges in hygiene, especially maybe in taking care of their body, dispelling body odor? They will tell you they don't have money to buy deodorant, and I will tell you that is not true. That is not true. How much is deodorant? You have not learned to manage resources. 2, you have not taught the value of hygiene, personal hygiene. Those two things. You've not learned the value of personal hygiene. And 2, you don't know how to manage resources. That same young man that cannot buy deodorant, if you have an ailment and the doctor told you, look, you have to buy this drug every month if you want to survive, and that drug is 5,000. You must buy it every month. Do you know you will buy it? Eh? You will buy it. But deodorant is 2,000, you will not buy. Why? It has no value to you. But why will you buy that drug 5,000 every month? Value of life. Have you seen it boils down to value? Value. So discipleship relationship helps you, one, to cultivate value and correct priority arrangements. Your personal hygiene is very important as a follower of Christ. Because however you appear, you are representing Jesus. Are you hearing me? You are representing Jesus. Inasmuch as Jesus came in a lowly form, not having where to lay his head, he was not a nuisance as when it comes to cleanliness and personal hygiene. He was not a nuisance. Why? He had parental upbringing. And I know that Mary and Joseph taught Jesus personal hygiene. Sometimes your money will just finish and you don't know what you used it for. That's why a lady some years back told us how the Lord helped her in that. She was already a grown-up woman getting ready to, I think she was about getting married. Yes. So she now lived with Daddy Billy's wife as her disciple. And she had this problem and she complained to her. She said, okay, no problem. Pick an exercise book. When you get salary, everything you spend, write it down. Everything. You bought sachet water, write it down. Bought balloon, write it down. Bought make me well, write it down. Everything you buy, write it down. And when she did that, she discovered where her monies had been going to. That's what helped her in financial management. And when she got married, it helped her. These are little details the church overlooks. Why? We only know power of Pentecost that pulls people down and they speak in tongues and become rascals. That's to us what Pentecostalism means. So when you hear somebody say, I'm a Pentecostal, he's invariably telling you I'm a rascal. Yes, we're not given to details. Please, it's life that begets life, not noise. Noise does not beget life. Life begets life. And in the area you have not overcome, you cannot help anybody. Are you hearing me? If you, the master, you don't know how to manage money, how will you help your children? Be deliberate. Give attention to details. Openness is important. Learn openness. Learn submission. It's also in the context of discipleship too, you can learn submission. You know, there are children who were spoiled under their parents. They don't know submission. They don't know respect. They are not industrious. They don't know how to work. They don't work hard. They don't know how to sweep. They don't know anything. Because they were spoiled the way they were raised. And that's why God had to smuggle some people from their homes in the Bible. Joseph was one who loved to stay at home when his brothers at the field. I wonder what he would have become. Until the Lord smuggled him away from his father's house to go and learn hard work under Potiphar. Managing everything that Potiphar had. What he never did in his father's house. The same with Jacob. The Bible clearly said Jacob was what? A quiet man who loves to be what? At home. But look at what that man did. Look at the energy he expended in the house of Laban. First 7 years to get a wife that was not his choice. Second 7 years, he had labor. He used labor to pay bride price. 14 years of hard labor. This is the Jacob in his father's house that loves to stay at home inside. The brother is running up and down in the field looking for how to catch animals and sell and make ends meet. Jacob is inside the room. But when he got to Laban's house, he became a workaholic, became a jackal. He became very energetic. Environment matters. Environment can spoil, environment can also enhance your walk with God, the life of Christ. Give attention to details. Watch your children when they are being carried away by social media. Be very careful. It's easier to destroy than to build. Watch your children, please. Don't allow them to get destroyed early in life. You will labor to correct those defects, and it takes longer to correct than to make them walk in the correct path early in life. A child can walk in the correct path early in life if you are deliberate. Give attention to details. I wouldn't say we did much, but I want to say God helped us. Particularly Ransom, my son, had strong convictions at age 3 over a song that is ungodly. One day he came crying, and my wife asked him what is wrong. He said, this bad song likes entering my heart, and I don't want to sing that song. It keeps coming to my mind, and he was visibly crying. Conviction at age 3 of what is wrong and what is good. It's possible. I'm sharing this to let you know it's possible. Don't you ever think that my child is too young to develop strong convictions. You must agree with these things. The secret to experience is faith. You must believe it. It doesn't work because you hear. It works because you believe. A strong sense of wrong and right at a tender age. And it helped him a lot. That even when he got to the dormitory, and senior students would want to influence him, they could not. He was a hard nut to crack. There is no philosophy you will bring that you can sweep him off his convictions. Why? You must give attention to details. Same with dressing children. Start early to dress them well. Don't think that they are babies. See, anything you do on your girl child when she's 3-4 years, to her is acceptable. My parents have approved it. So you allow that girl to grow with that 11, 12, 15, and when she's 15, 16, you start instructions on dressing. The girl will just tell you, but it's too late. It's too late. If you didn't want me to do this, you should have started earlier. Give attention to details. Jesus was particular with these things with his disciples. Beware of the leaven of the Pharisees. Jesus will call them aside and say, look, those things you are going to hear from the Pharisees, they are not true. Don't listen to them. What was he doing? Sheltering them from false doctrine. We must do that for our children. Shelter them. Shelter your disciples. You can't give them liberty to hear everything. Shelter them. Jesus sheltered his disciples. Beware of the leaven of the Pharisees. Why? Because it will spoil you. But you see, the man who didn't listen to Jesus became a casualty. Judas joined himself to the Pharisees at night, and they confused him. And he offered to sell his master. Convictions matter a lot. Give attention to details. So many other areas you should deliberately consider when you're raising your children. The academic work, give attention to it. I normally tell parents, you may not need a lesson teacher if you give your child 30 minutes every day. That's the truth. 30 minutes out of 24 hours. Give your child 30 minutes every day. You don't need a lesson teacher. Please don't think that you are too busy. No matter how busy you are, your child is your legacy. The house you build is not important to God as the child you leave behind. God demands godly offspring, not an estate that you build. 30 minutes every day, you don't need a lesson teacher. Spend time with them. Give attention to details. Your disciple too can have academic problems. You can give him or her attention. And the last but not the least, be watchful over inappropriate relationships between disciples and disciple makers. Be watchful of inappropriate relationships. Be watchful of inappropriate relationships. You know, this sometimes may be cultural. Let me start from the cultural that is biblical before I come to other areas. You know, in those days, it was cultural that when a woman does not give birth, that the housemaid given to the wife should be given to the husband to bear children for the mistress. That was the culture. So, Hagar came and should have been helped to become what? A disciple. Hagar was not exempted from knowing the Lord, even though she was from Egypt. She was not exempted. But you see how the enemy was subtle. A young girl that should have been a disciple to be helped to know the Lord. Because of cultural influence, Sarah carried her and said, Abraham, please give me a child through this girl. Culture. So cultural influence must not invade our discipleship relationship. Don't give culture room to invade it. You know, that happened to Sarah. It also happened to Jacob, to show you it was cultural. You know, when Laban gave his daughters to Jacob, he gave Leah first and gave Zilpah as a maid to Leah. He didn't give Jacob a second wife in Zilpah, but gave Zilpah as a maid to Leah. And when he eventually married Rachel, Laban gave Bilhah to Rachel as a maid, not to Jacob. But because Rachel didn't deliver on time, she now carried Bilhah and gave to Jacob. Leah did the same, carried Zilpah and gave to Jacob. Cultural influence frustrated discipleship relationships. Bilhah should have been a disciple under Rachel, and Zilpah should have been a disciple under Leah. But see how those relationships scattered because of what? Cultural impositions. Please beware of culture. Sometimes a young girl living with you when it's time for marriage will tell you that in our culture you must bury a live cow or sheep in the ground. You as the disciple, what did you say? You mustn't support that. You must stand by her to ensure that she does not engage in such idolatrous acts. If she wants to cooperate. Because you can't fight her will. You can't fight her convictions. But if you have raised her to the point that she agrees with you and say, Mommy, I don't want to do it. Say, fine. When once you have secured her consent, two of you can stand together in prayer. And say, Lord, that will not stand. Not the one you say, well, it's okay. Since they are saying so, go and bury, we'll be praying for you. Go and bury the cow. You must stand your ground against unrighteousness. Inappropriate relationships. A young girl comes to you as a disciple, to you as a couple. You are discipling her as a couple. It is inappropriate for him to discuss her intimate needs with the man, the husband. The physiological changes in the life of a young girl, if she came perhaps close to her adolescent age and a little beyond, it's not for her to discuss with the man. That's why it is always encouraged that If at all a man must contribute in discipleship to a young girl, it must be when he's married. That's why you didn't see Jesus choose any lady among the 12. These are instructive issues. You should ask yourself. So, can Jesus disciple a woman as the Son of God? Is he not powerful enough to do it? But why didn't he do it? To give us an example. To give us an example. Sometimes, the lady may be the relative of the man. The man should ensure that his relative, who is a female, discusses with the wife compulsorily. Because the young girl innocently may always want uncle, 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 uncle. It's not correct. You, the man, tell her everything about your upkeep, what you want in this house. Talk to my wife. Discuss with her. Yes, I'm your uncle, but now your uncle is married and has a wife. Everything to her. Are you understanding? Because these issues cause a lot of challenges in the home. Sometimes you see the woman neglect her duties. It's the disciple now that is cooking for the husband. That's wrong. A woman called me some time ago complaining over how a lady, I think she came as a copper and then later stayed over. She just decided to help her. You know, she felt she was in a discipleship relationship with her. And then she noticed that there was a day the husband gave her money to go to the market and come and cook. And when she told me, and I had to ask her some questions. And after my inquiries, I told her that girl is not your disciple. These are things we need. I keep saying it. The relationship must be well defined. It's not everybody that lives with you that is your disciple. Please, discipleship must be well defined. Why? It has an objective. You must define it. And I told her, send that girl away. If she will not cooperate with your standards, your home belongs to you. A wise woman does what? Builds her house, her home. Some women sometimes are the cause. You surrender your kitchen to a strange girl in the name of, she's a sister in church. She's our disciple. You hand over your kitchen. Things turn upside down in the kitchen. Please let that girl know that it is your kitchen. There must be boundaries. Even if you send her on an errand on what to do in the kitchen, let her ask questions. She will not inherit your kitchen. It's not one of the things Jesus gave us. The meek shall inherit the earth. It didn't include your kitchen. Please understand it. We're talking about dead flies. Little things that people overlook. Teach them respect. This woman said she'll be sitting on the table with her husband, eating and discussing. And this guy will come and climb the table and sit too and be looking at their mouths. I told that woman, send her away. What did God tell Abraham to do to Hagar? Is God wicked? I must look like my father. If he said send her away, what should I say? Except she decides to conform. We must not overlook these issues. That's why I said it's a practical issue. We can't teach discipleship and disciple making without delving into these issues, because they are the little foxes that spoil the vine. They spoil the vine. These are the essentials we are talking about. Even the disciple makers too should not involve in inappropriate actions that will destroy a disciple. If, assuming you are the mistress in the house, and you sent the disciple, who is a girl, to secretly give a gift to your mother, and your husband does not know, what do you think you are doing to that girl you call your disciple? You are teaching her that when you marry, do the same. Secretly give things to your mother and don't let your husband know. Or vice versa. The man is too secretly giving something to his own family, and the wife is not aware. That's why I said these little things matter, because we are dealing with lives. We are dealing with lives. We're not just raising people just into a profession or career. We are raising them to live a life. Teach your disciples respect for elders. Important. So the watchword here is what? Discipline. There must be discipline in these relationships. Be watchful of inappropriate relationships. There must be discipline. If you are single, people can enter your bedroom, but you are married to the opposite sex. Be careful who enters your bedroom. Because some things may not be well organized. And the intimate property or possessions of your spouse is there, and a stranger just comes in. It's inappropriate. There must be friendship and intimacy, but not without boundaries. Be watchful of inappropriate relationships. Very important, especially when it has to do with the opposite sex. Be very important. Be very careful. Be very careful. Generally, we don't encourage single males to disciple females. It is not encouraged because we don't have a biblical example. And we don't encourage a female single to disciple a male. We don't have a biblical example. Mordecai was the uncle to Esther, biological relationship. Please, are you following? If you preach to a young man as a sister, and the young man surrendered to the Lordship of Jesus, hand him over to a brother for follow-up. Why? Because follow-up and discipleship demands intimacy. Closeness. Jesus said that and then in John chapter 12, so that wherever I am, my servant will be there. Wherever means what? Wherever. Wherever means what? Wherever. When Jesus went to Peter's house, mother-in-law was sick and slept overnight. Let's assume in the condition of Peter's house, they had only one room, one guest room. Assuming Jesus went with female disciples, where would they sleep? Because disciples should be wherever you are. They can't be wherever you are. Timothy, the Bible says, followed Paul everywhere he preached. Everywhere. So if you are a male and a girl follows you everywhere, number one, what impression are you creating? Number two, when night catches you in an unfavorable condition, where do you stay? How do you sleep? Please, we must not practice these things. You preach to a sister, she got born again, look for a brother, a sister. Say, this sister just surrendered to the Lordship of Jesus. Please, can you help me watch over her, guide her until she's firm in faith? Do you understand that? Because everything must be done in decency and in order. It's indecent. It's indecent to be intimate with the opposite relationship that is not your spouse. It's indecent. Can we take questions? Yes. I'm not hearing her well. Though. Please give her a mic that I can hear.
I'm so blessed by the teachings for today. Please, I want to ask, based on that example that you also cited, where Jesus said, in the world or amongst the Gentiles, it is not so. You should not exercise authority over others here in God's kingdom. Please, can you throw more light? How do we, marry it with having to relate with the disciple with, firmness and being harsh or hard sometimes, as you mentioned?
No, there are two different things. You didn't hear me well. The one you are relating, you're talking about, Jesus was dealing with ambition, not oversight over disciples. He was dealing with ambition. He said the things that the Gentiles seek after, don't seek it. Ambition. Power, just for power's sake. But he now said that those who will lead in his kingdom will be what? Servants. So it's a different thing. You understand? The first one is dealing with ambition. He's saying that we should not be ambitious like worldly people. Gentiles just seek authority and power because it's mere ambition. Just maybe for fame and for a name. But the kingdom is service, meaning that even if you have a role as a leader in the kingdom, you are there as a servant. You understand? So it's different from the other aspect you are looking at. Yeah. Okay. Please take the mic to her. Rokufre, is it that not that mic that is not working well? Okay.
Sir, please, what counsel can you give to a young girl?
To
a young girl, maybe a disciple or a help in a house,
okay,
who begins to observe that there's an unguarded advances from the man of the house. Because I've had a young girl in such a situation and she didn't really know what to do. And she fell for it. And that even happened to be a relative. So if there are girls in such a situation, what are they supposed to do?
that is first, they are born again. Are they born again?
Whether born again or not.
No, let's treat the ones that are in the faith first. Because the unbelievers have a different standard. We are dealing with the relationship between Paul and the disciple maker. Now, the best thing for young people to do first, you don't wait until you have challenges to now begin to adjust. First is develop very strong convictions in God. That's the essence of our being rooted. That's what helped Joseph. Joseph was well rooted. He knew what was sin and what was righteousness. So, no matter how Potiphar's wife approached him, he stood his ground that this is sin and this is wickedness. I didn't see Joseph report her to the husband. Even if he did, Potiphar would have still believed the wife. So we also need to be wise. But you yourself have a foundation, have a conviction, and avoid every piece of evil. That's what Joseph did. I think there's a version I read. I don't know which people I read to. Not too long. I read that passage. Was it to the worship team? Huh? There's a time, I think it was to the worship team. Yes. I read it to you. That Joseph deliberately avoided that woman. So you too, don't find yourself in a circumstance that you are vulnerable. Then seek counsel from older believers who will guide you well. Seek counsel. You must seek counsel. For the unbeliever, what can we say? They are unbelievers. As much as we don't encourage, but you cannot advise an unbeliever and expect for that unbeliever to really receive help when the unbeliever is governed by the nature of sin. So to an extent, it's outside our jurisdiction. Because we're in the kingdom of God. That child is the kingdom of darkness. He or she has a master. Even if you tell her, do this, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, will you be there when the master says do it? Master, I mean the devil. So you can only pray for such people. If you want to advise them, no problem. But I think we're focusing more on believers. Avoid such appearance of evil as much as you can. And even that you cannot stand the pressure, leave the home. Why am I saying so? If your right hand will cause you to offend, do what? Let it go. Let it go. Because enter eternity with the other hand. And not to enter hell with your two hands. Yes.
I want to thank God for this practical session. It's so practical. And I have a question. Now, a situation where a young life is around someone and the relationship was functional, and after some times, the life just decided to withdraw. And trying to find out, the person keeps telling you that there's no problem. There's nothing. But it's very obvious that you don't know what is happening with that life. It's a meeting and somewhere. He tells the elder that he's still relating with you. And maybe the elder wants to find out from you. At that point, what's your position? Is it to openly tell the elder that I don't know anything about this life? When he himself or she herself is still saying that I'm relating with this person, do we disown the person at that point? Or what is our position? Where do we stand?
What you do is tell the elder exactly as it is. Just like Paul said, Demas has now forsaken me. When Demas was with him, he said, Demas, my beloved physician, Luke, and Demas, they greet you. Now, Demas is no more. And he told them, he said, Demas has left me. So there's nothing to cover up now. If relationship, you tell the man, yes, I know about him. God is helping his life. Whatever station you have, keep going. But where he has left you like Demas, tell the man, he has left me like Demas. So I can't say much. You understand? There's nothing to cover up. Say exactly as it is. If possible, depending on your relationship with the elder, tell the elder what happened, how he began withdrawing. Maybe your own, what the things you noticed or whatever. Just the issue is that just tell the man exactly as it is. You don't gain anything by covering him. Rather, you will destroy him. Because the elder will now be relating with him as though you are still, attesting to his character and life. Don't do that. Just tell the man exactly as it is. And those things happen. It's like the people who left Jesus in John chapter 6. So if they now ask Jesus about those people who left him, what will he say? He said, that's with me. He will tell them they left me. So, let's be honest in our dealings with men, okay?
Please, I'll need you to speak to servant leadership, differentiating it from weak leadership. The discipler, maybe it's at home, and the disciple, he does not know how to sweep something, and the discipler is the one sweeping permanently to show the disciple that this is how to sweep people. Because this is also taken into even in the corporate world.
Yes.
Where do we balance weakness and meekness, as a leader?
The first thing that will help every leader or a disciple maker is hold fast to the objective. Why are you raising this young man? Is Jesus lazy? Good. On the premise of the objective, you teach him how to speak. You understand? Why? The objective. The objective. You must not shift from the objective. You are dealing with a life that has a future. So everything you are going to do will be guided by love for God too and love for the disciple. So you know that when you are showing the disciple what to do, you're not just being harsh, you're not being difficult, you have love for his life. Even though today you may not see that love, but ultimately you will see that is love for his life. So it's not, you're not a weak leader, though there is a place for leadership, by example. But I don't agree with the word permanently. That's wrong. You can't be sweeping permanently. But once in a while, there are things you do as a leader that will move your disciple to equally learn how to serve. When he too becomes a leader, he will serve. You understand? Is there any message?
My turn is with respect to relationship. Looking at the life of Joseph and the Potiphar, I don't really know if that was a discipleship relationship from the story of how he got there, although God actually did use that place to form his life. So my question is, if peradventure a life, maybe by how God arranges things, a life comes close to you and you don't really know anything about discipleship, and you are disposed to this life and the life have access to you, should we formalize and say, okay, you have to stay with me, there is something called discipleship, and then so that they will get to know those boundaries, get to know everything? Or since I already know who I am as a Christian, can I be conscious of the fact that no matter the length of time this person is going to stay with me, is passing through my life, let me consciously see what I can do through my life for this space of time, whether this child understands what discipleship is or not, or has met me officially, unofficially, or however, and just trust God that along the line, maybe the child can understand that this was actually God bringing you to learn. When can I formalize it and say this is discipleship, or I should just live my life and trust God will help, use my life to help this person? Thank you.
Well, it's advisable that relationships are well defined, directly or indirectly. Yes, many people don't promote, understand, or emphasize discipleship today because the church also concealed it. But our fathers did not conceal it. Immediately they repented, they came into a discipleship relationship in Acts chapter 2. So if you are dealing with a believer, somebody came to you and is born again, you want to raise that life. Let that life know the objective of following Jesus. And how one can be helped to become something bigger. You know the reason? Two people must agree for a relationship. There must be a point of agreement. I don't know how I want to make it official or in the Bible study, but there should be an understanding of the relationship. There were those who entered ignorantly because there was no awareness. But we cannot follow wrong examples. There is nobody who followed Jesus and the relationship was not established. And even the examples we see in the Bible. Is it Moses and Joshua? Elijah and Elisha? Somehow, they came to that. Why am I saying this? Remember we talked about, in the case of Mordecai and Esther, we talked about mutual acceptance. And that a sign of mutual acceptance is obedience to instructions. Remember that Mordecai told her, don't tell them yet that you're Jew. What did she do? She said, yes, uncle. Now, another time came, okay, you cannot tell them that you're Jew. What did she say? Yes, uncle. But if you don't make someone know the relationship that you have entered into, it will look as if you are trying to invade his or her private space. And not everybody will accept that. Who are you to be probing into my privacy? But where at least there is an understanding of how you are relating and what the relationship is about. It gives both of you liberty to relate. So to an extent, I encourage that it is important to understand that relationship so that both people can benefit maximally. Else, it may be one-sided, like I did explain. You have a young girl, you say, I took her as my sister, she's like a disciple, and you did everything for her. But she didn't take you as a disciple maker. She didn't take you as her elder sister or as her mother. The day she felt like leaving, she just packed her things and left. In as much as you in your heart, you had accepted her, but she didn't accept you. I don't know if you are getting the picture. So that's why at least it's good to come to a point to establish what is the objective of this our relationship. What do we want to achieve? Please, it is good to establish it. Is that okay? I believe we don't have any other question. Okay, let me take your own and then we pray.
My pastor, when Sister Rose asked you a question about her own case, you answered. And you said it is better you go out. After all, it's better you go out and live with one hand.
If you cannot stand the pressure, I gave a condition.
Yes. And she now asked me, what is the meaning of what you have said?
Who asked you? Okay. Answer her.
So I told her I don't understand. That she should ask you. She said no. And because me too, I don't really understand. I now stand up to ask you, my pastor, what exactly do you mean?
Okay, let my elders help me. Please bring the mic to Elder Barnabas.
The question was that if there is a female disciple in a house and the husband is making advances, am I correct? Okay. I think the answer was that the female in the house should be able to have a conviction of saying no to unrighteousness. And Joseph was quoted, the example of Joseph was quoted. So it takes conviction to say, I will not do this. So if that female cannot cope, cannot be able to withstand the pressure that is coming from the man, she should shout and want to run away. That's the same thing Joseph did. Not so. He ran away, and the woman held his clothes, but he has gone. You understand now? If the pressure is much, okay, that's a can't go.
I think Sister Stephen should speak. Please give her the mic. I don't know why she should be asking. Give her the mic. Because we cannot be answering questions that we don't understand.
What do you want me to say?
You are asking questions now.
No, she was behaving as if she has heard the question and the answer. And I asked her, what was the question?
Okay, you didn't hear too.
Yes.
Okay, you have heard now.
She said she doesn't understand.
So you've heard the question
Yes,
now,
I've heard now.
and you've gotten the answer.
Yes.
It's okay. I want to be sure that you're okay. It's all right. All right. I think we can pray. Let's postpone all other questions. Let's bow our heads to pray. These are little foxes that vertically must not play down on or overlook. We must ask God for help, because this is actually the only commission God left with us. Go and make disciples. And if we don't know how to go about it, the kingdom of God will suffer loss. So you are going to plead with God that on account of my life, your kingdom will not suffer loss. I will not be a problem or a hindrance to disciple making, to establishing the kingdom, to advancing the purpose of God. Ask God to help you. Maybe in the course of our discussion, there are issues you have noticed in your life that may not really help you achieve this call, this mandate. You make it a prayer matter for your own life. I don't know the area that you're asking for help. Is it to love God so that you can raise men? What are those areas, those challenges? Just ask the Lord for help.